Hi. So, sorry, I didn't catch your name. Your name is Akram.
Akram, yes, my name is Akram.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How you doing? How's your
I'm
weekend
good. I'm good.
going?
I'm good. Actually, the weekend is pretty chilled out here in Hong Kong. What about yours?
It's quite cold. I live,
In Tokyo.
near to Tokyo, yeah, in
Oh,
Chiba, a city called
actually,
Chiba. And
yeah, I didn't know you were in Tokyo until you sent the
really?
Zoom link, and it was like 4 p.m. and I was like, oh yeah, it's 1 hour ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in Japan, yeah.
Okay, cool. And you have
Yeah.
a very professional setup going on.
I try my best. Yeah, so first of all, like how's Hong Kong? Like I think you're the first person that I know that was in Hong Kong, doing their PhD. So
Mm-hmm.
how is it over there?
Actually, Hong Kong is pretty cool. I mean, I've been living here for almost 20 years now. So
20?
20
Oh,
years, yeah. So
so
I'm
you didn't
actually
go
not,
there for your okay,
no, no,
I
no,
thought you were there for PhD. Okay.
no, I'm not an international student. So
Oh.
I grew up like for 7 years in India. Like I was born in India and then I grew up in India. And
Oh.
eventually my parents shifted to Hong Kong with me and my brother. So we pretty much like grew up mostly in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep.
How's living in Hong Kong? Can you tell me about it?
I
Because
think,
all I know is from the movies. Is it anything like the
yeah.
movies or not?
I think in movies they show it a lot of like drugs and I think they give a similar image of how they show Bangkok and Thailand and then they show Hong Kong where it's like mafia and all. It's true to some extent, but it's very safe. It's actually very safe. I mean, Hong Kong is like it's like a very good metropolitan, political city. Like it's everything is over here. So I would say it just gives you another image of Singapore because Singapore and Hong Kong have a
Oh.
very, very big, like always rivalry going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. So can you introduce? Like, sorry, we just started talking about Hong Kong before actually talking about you.
No
So
problem.
can you please introduce yourself?
Hi. Okay,
Let us
sure.
know. Who is
Sure,
Ria?
sure. So, my name is Ria, and I'm basically an Indian, but I've been living in Hong Kong for about 20 years, so I consider myself a local, not local Chinese, but pretty much a local Hong Konger. And even though I have Indian backgrounds, uh, I adopted to the Chinese culture very much in Hong Kong. So other than my PhD, I love dancing. I love animals, and
Yeah,
I'm a very outdoor person in
I
general.
see. Do you speak Chinese or
I
like?
speak, yeah, I
I
speak
mean,
basic
there is no Chinese, Cantonese or Mandarin,
Cantonese
right?
or Mandarin
There, yeah, it's
exactly.
not Chinese.
So yeah, I mean it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean Cantonese pretty much I can understand a little bit and even
Uh-huh.
Mandarin. But in my high school in Hong Kong, it was like a half international, half local school. So we also adopted to the French language because our
French.
school, yes, because our school before the British people left Hong Kong, it was pretty much a French school. So it has a very rich history of about 160 years in Hong Kong. And we adopted to the French language because it was, it's very westernized back then.
So you speak French too.
I used to because I spoke French for about 9 years in school, but then eventually
Oh,
you get lost with
yeah.
the language if you don't catch up with it. Yeah.
And speaking multiple languages,
Yeah.
even if you speak them at the same time, like just one of them, like they keep taking over each other, like it's quite
Exactly,
confusing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It does confuse you. There's so,
Yeah.
French is so much like English actually. It's just their pronouns, like, a table is a he or pencil is a he or something like there's a he or she
Yes,
in
it's
French.
the same thing in Arabic. Like we have
Ah,
it. It's
okay.
it's it's quite close to that.
I think
So
so, yeah. But I think Arabic is must be much more difficult than French.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
Arabic is definitely. I think it's up there with the Chinese and Japanese languages. Like these languages are like a
Yeah.
quite
Quite
troublesome to
ancient,
learn.
yeah. Quite ancient languages.
Quite ancient. Quite when you're learning them, there's just too many things to learn in order in
Yeah,
order
there's
to
so
be
many
able
things to
to speak.
remember. Yeah.
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 Okay, thank you. And yeah, first of all, like I have like your Insta handle is PhD Who Dances, right?
Yes.
Tell me the story about that.
So it's a very simple story, honestly. I started
Uh-huh.
my PhD back in 2020, and after 1 year of PhD, I realized there's so much, science stuff that you do every day. I call it science stuff because
Yeah.
there's so many different things you're doing in a single day of, of a PhD life. And I was like, I want to show people like, what I'm dealing with. And there are cancer cells, there are reagents, there are toxic chemicals in the lab, and it's like it can almost kill you and people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm passionate about this. I want to share about this. So I started off with a lot of science sharing, but eventually it came out into memes. So
Yeah.
it became memes eventually.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of molecular biology that I want to share on my page, and a lot of memes as well. But the reason why it's called PhD Who Dances is because I'm passionate about dancing. And my dance page was the first Instagram page that I established with my friend. And it is not a very big page, honestly, but my PhD page happened to be more bigger than my dance page. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, the more time you spend on something, the more it will grow as well. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Uh, can you tell, like you already mentioned a little bit about your PhD.
Mhm.
Can you let us know, like, what do you do? What's your research about? What's your
Okay,
background first? Like,
right, right,
before
right,
doing your PhD, what were you doing
right.
before that?
Yeah, 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 I agree. I agree. That's a
Yeah.
lot of people have asked me this once you start a PhD related page, I think, or even in the science field, people are constantly asking you, "Oh, what was your background? What was your bachelor's in? Where did you study? Why are you an international student?" And yeah, all of that stuff. So basically, I graduated in my bachelor's in biomedical sciences, and um, when I joined my bachelor's in back in 2016, I fell into the trap that it was a research-based environment, but it actually turned out to be very much like diagnostics-based. So for the next 4 years, I suffered in diagnostics-related stuff when I was
Yeah.
actually very passionate about research. But diagnostics is
So
also,
your intention was to do research right from the
yes,
beginning,
yes.
and
So
you had to
there
do a lot of diagnosing,
exactly. And
though. Okay.
we were basically in biomedical sciences, which is like the substream of medicine, right? So
Yeah.
all the tests that the doctors are being, asked, like they tell you to do these tests or blood tests and all, we knew how to do all of that, but not everyone is passionate about that.
Yeah.
So it's actually very boring. Diagnostics is very, very boring, trust me. Like being a
Yeah.
pathologist, imagine it's probably the most boring job in the world. But we need pathologists, right, in the world as well. So
I mean, the department that I did my PhD in was also pathology. So
exactly.
my
And
research was tissue engineering
mm,
related, but the
right,
department was pathology. So
pathology, yeah.
I think, I understand what you're talking about, but we're not gonna
I mean,
say
it's
that
pretty
very clearly,
interesting.
though.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. I did go to Singapore for 2 months and did entirely my internship in diagnostics in the biggest hospital in Singapore. And it was pretty amazing. We used to see human samples every day, and I love seeing human samples. Like seriously, like I would sound like a psycho, but it's just science in front of you, like life science. So pathology
Yeah.
was one of the main streams I really, really loved, but it was very, very technical and very, very demanding. But anyways, my focus shifted to research, and I started with genetics, epigenetics specifically, and then it was very
Can
random.
you
Yeah.
like explain to, maybe somebody who's not,
Right, right,
close to
right,
this field,
yeah,
what is epigenetics?
right. So it's very
What
interesting.
are epigenetics? Okay.
I think it's just epigenetics. There's no single or
Or
plural word.
plural, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's
What's
pretty
the
much
field of epigenetics?
yeah. So it's pretty interesting in which way. So like genetics, right? We have genes inside us. We have DNA, and we all have a unique DNA that determines how we look like, how our hands are, the color of our skin, the color of our hair, the color of our eyes, everything, right? But
Yeah.
epigenetics is in a way that it's above genetics. So that's what epigenetics means,
Mm.
literally. And the most interesting phenomena is basically they talk about twins. and in epigenetics, and we assume that identical twins will grow up to be exactly the same kind of people with the same kind of everything in terms of genetics. But epigenetics explain that even identical twins, if put into two different environments, can come out to be very different people, not just personality wise, but genetically as well. They'll grow into two different people genetically as well. And that's the amazing thing about epigenetics. Like there's so much in our genome that is unexplained, and that's what epigenetics actually studies.
Hmm.
So I found that very, very cool.
Yeah, it is cool,
It is very cool. Like
Yeah.
one of the most interesting things is that our human genome, right? So it's pretty huge, but there are only very specific parts of it that actually codes, like very small percentage of it that actually codes for the proteins that make what we are today. But a
Yeah.
large part of it is useless. So epigenetics actually studies that, it's not actually useless. There's so
Yeah.
much that the remaining
I
genome
was about to tell, like, maybe it's not useless, like, but
it's
maybe
not
we just
useless.
haven't figured out what it's doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the field of epigenetics is way too cool, and it's going to get very, very big in the future, I think. Yep.
Correct me if I'm mistaken. Like, I
Mhm.
had this concept about epigenetics is that studying the factors that affect the genes themselves, the transcription of the
Mhm.
proteins itself, other than studying the genes themselves. Is
Right,
is
right,
it
right.
is it close to
I
the
think it's
idea or
both as
no?
well. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. That's how your environment, interacts with your body and your genome and
Yeah.
affects you, right? Like a
Hmm.
person growing in a very industrial and very polluted environment versus in a very healthy environment may come out to be very two different individuals, even if they were identical twins.
Yeah.
So essentially that's what epigenetics is, and everything
I see.
above, our genome, like the interaction of histones, proteins, and
Mm,
other stuff. Yeah.
okay. So, and your research is what
Oh,
do you do?
so yeah. So the interesting thing I shifted
Yeah.
was that I shifted from genetics to cancer research. And it's not a very big shift actually, because cancer research has a lot to do with genetics as well at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Almost every other cancer that we are dealing with today has something or other related to our genetic factors. And there's so much with our mutations of how we drink, how we eat, how we live, the way we live, that can actually induce cancer in our bodies. So there's so much between genetics and cancer. So eventually I shifted to cancer research, and essentially because I think it's a very big field, and no matter where you go after your PhD, it's going to be a very useful thing to do, to be honest. um, Obviously to the society as well, but like to some extent, not a lot of cancer research can be, immediately implemented into the society, right?
Yeah.
So not essentially speaking that I'm going to cure cancer, but there's always some part of your research that might be able to help other researchers, excel their form of research, which may eventually lead to some cures. So yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
Uh, so how
Oh,
did
1 second. Sorry. I just want to ask
yeah.
you as well. Like, what is your
Go.
research related as well, too?
So my background is dentistry, right?
Right. Okay.
And I came to Japan. My idea was like I wanted to do some bone regeneration research.
Mhm.
At that time, have you heard of ips cells?
In pluripotent cells? No.
Yes,
In
induced pluripotent
individual.
cells,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So at that time was, it was booming and everybody was doing
Mm,
that kind of research. So
mm.
my professor wanted me to do, something related to,
Right.
the ips cells. We
Mm.
ended up doing the effect of topography. So
Okay.
I used different types of, substrates and checked their effect on the ips cells differentiating into osteogenic lineage.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Cool thing about my experiment, which, even during my defense, like, professors were like they had a little bit of time to wrap their head around it, is that I did not use any induction mediums, so no
Mm.
osteogenic mediums at all. I just saw what the topography does on the cells.
Mm.
And yeah, it was interesting. Like there was an increase in some of the osteogenic transcription factors, and it was pretty interesting. I like taking pictures, to be honest. So that was,
Yeah,
I think that was the most fun part about my PhD,
that's
was
very
like,
cool.
looking at these cells and
Mhm.
taking all kinds of pictures.
Right, right, right.
Which brings me to, I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah,
I
sure,
mean,
sure.
what's the most important, the most fun thing about your PhD, like experiment wise or not? Like
Mhm.
what is the thing that you're enjoying, the most
Mhm,
uh
mhm.
to do, during your PhD?
I think it's so difficult to say when it comes to a PhD that there's something fun about your PhD.
That's that's the first thing that people tell me. I'm like, I know we're gonna go there, but like, is
Yeah.
there, always look
There,
at the
I
half
think,
half
yeah.
full part of the cup or whatever,
Right, right, right. I
Yeah.
think, it's so difficult because there's so many ups and downs in my PhD so far, which I will come to later.
Mm,
And I think that may be the fun part, essentially speaking, because I don't want the PhD to get very dull. Like, I don't want to do the same work every day. So, essentially speaking, when my experiments fail, I do get a chance to, optimize, my experiments. And that brings me around to a new experiment or something like that. That is, I think, the most interesting part in this PhD so far.
mm,
But other than that, I think maybe the most fun part is yet to come because I'm planning to go for a conference, for a cancer conference in the US.
mm.
So that's like the biggest cancer conference worldwide, and it's the American Association for Cancer Research. So I think that may be the most fun part of my PhD so far. That is yet to come in
Mhm.
April. So yeah,
Yeah, all the best in this
thank
conference.
you, thank you so much.
Yeah, I remember being very excited about presenting. It's quite interesting process. Uh, can you let me know about, like, how is your day to day,
Mhm,
life in the lab? How often do you know
mhm.
how do you have how often do you get feedback from your professor? Or
Right,
like,
right, right.
how does it work?
So I think in Hong Kong, I would say it varies a lot. I'm not sure about other countries where people are doing their PhDs, but I think in comparison to European culture, Hong Kong may be a little bit more tough. Like PIs, supervisors, they're demanding. And
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis, I'm just lucky that my supervisor is, I would say, rather chilled out, to be honest. So he
Yeah.
doesn't come after me every day, like, what is your progress? Or like, do you have any results to show me? Because he understands that it takes time. You
Mhm.
cannot just, get up and like have a good day of experiments and then suddenly show the best results.
Yeah.
So the most interesting thing about our lab is that we don't actually have lab meetings. So we don't have journal clubs or stuff like that. And that may actually be a disadvantage to some extent, but we do a lot of independent work because I think that's just how the lab is at this point.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's pretty much chilled out. Other
Mhm.
than that, in terms of experiment, it's a lot of molecular biology work on a day-to-day basis. A lot of Western blots, a lot of cell culture, different types of assays that we do, like extracting proteins, extracting, RNA, converting it to cDNA, running quantitative polymerase chain reactions and RT-PCR. So there's a lot
Oh,
of
those
molecular
were the
biology.
days. Okay.
I know. It's
Like, I don't know. Like,
do
do
you
you do you
miss these
enjoy this
experiments?
process? Huh?
Do you miss these experiments?
Not really, to be honest. I told you
Mm-hmm.
the the thing that I love the most. I mean, I always love photography, whether with my camera, with my phone,
Mm-hmm.
or like during experiments. I
Mm-hmm.
just love taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part, especially the real time PCR, like
Yeah.
that was bad. Like that was like, and the problem is like you're really dealing with microns and sometimes like submicrons.
Yeah.
And any mistake that you do during that whole process could
Yeah.
mess up the whole thing. And
Exactly.
and you don't know where
Yeah.
did it go wrong, but you
Yeah.
just gotta repeat the whole thing.
Exactly.
And for my experiment, like one, like I had to do, in order to examine the cells,
Mm-hmm.
I had to run the experiment for about 45 days
Oh wow. Yeah.
before harvesting the cells and doing like.
Exactly.
So anything going wrong was like kind of a month and a half of work that has been
Exactly.
gone like through the window.
Yeah.
So I don't miss that part at all, to be
And I
honest.
don't know that word.
Yeah.
The part with cell culture, right? And also, yeah.
Cell culture was fine. Cell culture
Oh,
is
okay.
okay for me. I
Okay.
mean, as I told you, like what I did was I used cells like these IPS
Mhm.
cells, and the
Mhm.
problem, yeah, like what cells do you use in your experiment?
We use a lot of prostate cancer cell lines,
Prostate
actually.
cancer cell.
Yes.
For me, it was these IPS cells, and the
Hmm.
problem with the IPS cells is like these are like like pluripotent and
Right.
undifferentiated.
Right.
Problem with these cells is that if they differentiate, they lose all their characters, and they're basically useless for you.
Yeah. That's
So
what
you
I've
have to
heard. Right.
so you have to keep them in an undifferentiated state.
Right.
And that was a problem, like
Mm-hmm.
especially in the beginning. It took me a while to learn how to culture them. Especially in the beginning, I did it like you can do them with feeders or without feeders.
Hmm.
Without feeders, it's much easier, and that's what I did later. In
Hmm.
the beginning, I did it with feeders. Anyways, it's a sad story. Like, I mean, it really takes a long
It
time,
is. It is. I can
Yeah,
imagine. I can totally imagine. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so talking about sadness, let's 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 ask you about what are the difficulties that you find during your PhD?
Hmm. Hmm.
What's I mean, there should be a ton, like, but
There's so many.
yeah, but yeah, like choose a few.
I mean, I think when I started my PhD in 2020, it was right after my bachelor's, and I think I was
Mhm.
very naive. Now that I see myself, 3 years later,
Uh-huh.
I was so naive to actually just dive right into my PhD. And
Mhm.
yeah, and I mean, I chose one of the supervisors to work with, and she was great, like in the beginning. And eventually, all supervisors are difficult to work with. I've not heard a single person doing a PhD who says my supervisor was the best, sent from heaven above. So all
Mm.
bosses, like all type of bosses, are difficult to work with. But eventually, what happened was she chose to quit the institution, 1 year later on,
Oh.
and that was the biggest breakdown of I think, my PhD life at that
Oh
point.
yeah, that's quite difficult to deal with.
It's very difficult, and I was not prepared for it at all. And I have actually even shared this on my Instagram in my very few first posts. So that was the most difficult part because I was 1 year into my PhD, and you basically barely have any project, and
Yeah.
you're still trying to learn. And I had a project with me, but it was very tough, and we were dealing with cancer associated fibroblasts, and there's not much literature going on around it. And she decides to leave the institution and take the project with her. And I was like, what am I going to do with my
Damn.
life?
Yeah, is
So
isn't there like a protocol, a procedure to follow? Like,
exactly, this
no.
is academia for you.
Yeah,
This
right?
is
Like,
academia.
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. This is okay.
Exactly.
Please go on.
And apparently it happens more than you can imagine. So I was not ready for it at all. And she was leaving, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I had to find another supervisor. And 50% of my PhD was supposed to be done in another 1 year, and you're leaving. And what am I going to do? So eventually I did find a very good supervisor, and now I started with prostate cancer. So initially I was working with head and neck cancer, which is a very rare form of cancer worldwide, but it's still there are no specific cures for it, and it basically spreads, from here to here. So
Which
that's
type of cancer is that?
head and neck cancer. So it doesn't really involve brain cancer, but it involves your throat and your tongue and
Yeah.
all this part of here.
I'm
So
like I
yeah.
said, I'm a dentist. My background's in dentistry, and
Yeah.
I used to work in the oral maxillofacial
Mhm.
surgery department. So we had a lot of head and neck
Yeah.
cancer,
Yeah.
and mostly it's like squamous cell carcinoma.
Yep. Yep.
Is that the type that you were
Yep. Yes.
dealing
Head and
with?
neck, head and neck squamous cell
Cell
carcinoma,
carcinoma. Yeah.
HNSCC. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is what it is. Yep. But
It's
it's
yeah.
insane how, people around the world are especially in parts of India or like special parts of Asia where, alcohol and smoking is a very big part of the culture. That's where head and neck, cancer is very prominent.
Especially,
So,
smokeless tobacco
yep,
is,
yep,
it's we have that. I think it's in India also. It's in Yemen also, especially for the cities that are, the coastal cities. Like everybody kind of just uses this smokeless
yep,
tobacco.
yep,
And I would say, I mean, I spent 5 years working there, and 100% of the
yeah,
cases are all related to,
that's it.
smokeless tobacco.
Yep, yep. It's insane how head and neck cancer, it's a very rare type of cancer. There are not many cases worldwide when in comparison to breast cancer or prostate cancer.
Mm.
But it's insane how it spreads in your body, and eventually the survival rate isn't that high as well. So yeah.
Yeah, especially the areas.
Yep.
It's quite difficult to work with.
It's yeah. It's difficult to treat as well, head and neck
It
cancer.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
mhm.
It eventually affects your breathing as well when doctors give you, radiation therapy and all it, and even chemotherapy, it will affect your breathing, it will affect your eating. And it seems like a very small deal when you say, oh, head and neck squamous cell carcinoma, but it's actually a very big deal. Even if you get treated, your entire body is being affected by it eventually. Yeah.
Exactly, and I don't know. In Since I moved to Japan, I see in here like the way that, they intervene when they see cases, and,
Mhm.
and the way they diagnose it, and
Mhm.
basically, I'm not gonna say it, like word for word, but like, whenever they see, a precancerous lesion, or
Mhm.
like they see the smallest of signs,
Yeah.
they would intervene, extensively, and some of the cases they would even do like, neck dissection, it's called,
Oh,
like, which is
wow. Yeah.
basically removing the lymph nodes from the
Oh,
neck in
yeah.
order to
Right.
prevent spreading of cancer.
Yep. Yep.
But the way, the way we received cases back in Yemen,
Yeah.
there were no cases like this.
Yeah.
Patients come to you already at an end stage
Oh no. Yeah.
that you can't do anything,
Yeah.
basically. It's something like a palliative treatment, and that's it. And it's quite a
Yeah.
sad story.
It is. It is definitely.
How did we get here? We were talking about difficulties about your
Oh yeah, we
research.
were talking about the
Yeah,
difficulties in PhD. So yeah,
yeah.
basically that I eventually shifted to a prostate cancer lab. And I mean, shifting from one lab to another lab just at the end of your first year of PhD is actually very challenging already. Because by the end of your first year, you should have, established, your project, you should have established what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and you should start doing it. But essentially, I was changing my entire background, my entire project, coming up with a new project in a new lab. And that was probably the most toughest part of my PhD, essentially. Yeah.
And, uh, please, I keep asking, these,
No
silly
problem.
questions, but please forgive me. How's the PhD program? How many years is the PhD program? And
Right.
is there like a, how can I say, like, in your first year you're supposed to
Mhm.
do this, second year this,
Right,
and
right, right,
is it like clearly defined, or it's just like
right.
every other PhD program that is just
Honestly,
like you're floating?
I know. I think it's always just like you're floating, to be honest. And I don't think that's a problem with Hong Kong specifically. I think that's
No, no, it's
just
not.
it's not right. Right. I haven't applied for PhD programs, other than anywhere in Hong Kong. But what I've heard from other people doing their PhDs in other countries, it's everyone is struggling when they're doing a PhD.
Oh
There's
yeah.
no clearly defined process that, okay, in your first year, you will focus on this skill. And then you move on to your second year and you focus on this, and this. You know how much like our bachelors were pretty much, the courses were very much defined.
Predetermined, yeah, everything is.
Exactly. You do this many credits, you pass, you move on, and then you do this many credits and you pass and you move on. And it eventually most students will finish on time in their bachelor's, but that's not the case of a PhD, I think. And I think that's the biggest misconception when people, think of PhD. So I think it's not like that. But in Hong Kong, the general duration of a PhD is 4 years. And the good thing about doing a PhD in Hong Kong is that all students get a regular stipend. So a very basic stipend of about 17 to 18,000 HKD per month. which is a lot actually to maintain your living expenses over here. You can even do some savings, and I think it's pretty much of what a PhD student would get in the US as well. So other than that, I have not heard of any other countries which offer, this kind of stipend for PhD students.
How much is that in dollars?
You mean in USD?
Yeah.
I think you can divide it by eight. So maybe, yeah, eight, maybe 17 to 18,000. I'm not sure about the exchange rate. So you can divide that by the USD.
17,000 you said?
17,000 HKD per month. So
Divided by 8. Yeah,
yes,
that's I
that's,
mean
yeah. I
in
mean,
Japan it's around $1,500.
right,
Like
right.
it's,
But is it like a scholarship based, or is it that everyone would receive the same kind of
oh
stuff?
no, 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 no. This is only for like I'm talking oh sorry, I'm talking about the mixed scholarship, which is
Mhm.
basically something that is similar to Fulbright
I
in
see.
the States. Like they have the
Oh,
mixed scholarship in Japan.
I see. I see.
And it's basically 1,500 now. It's or around $400.
Mm-hmm.
It's less, but
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
So
Oh, mhm.
I think it's just a good thing that PhD students are being paid. So I think that's one of the biggest, I would say, attractive thing about doing a PhD in Hong Kong. And that's how a lot of international students from either from China mainland or other countries actually end up coming to Hong Kong for their PhDs, because you get a very good stipend, and everyone gets the same stipend. You don't have to fight for the stipend. You don't have to have the best grades. If you're admitted into the program, no matter which program you are in, engineering, social science, biomedical science, arts, or whatever, you'll get the same amount of stipend. And students who have a very bright background, like their GPA and publications and all, they have chances of getting an even higher amount of fellowship. So that comes with its own benefits. And I know a lot of students who are, as a PhD, they're getting about 25,000 HKD a month, and 2 years or few years of their tuition fees also exempted, or the entire tuition fees exempted, and they get living expenses as well. So it's pretty much a starting salary of
Yeah,
a job in Hong Kong.
yeah.
So it's pretty cool, I think, in that way.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is like
yeah,
they're taking care of the students. Actually, this is
exactly.
this is quite good
That's how they're
because
gonna attract students at the end of the day.
I mean PhDs are kind of underpaid researchers. To be
Yep.
honest,
We are
because
underpaid laborers, like
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, postdocs is basically an extension of that
Yep. Yep.
because they're still underpaid compared to other
Yes.
staff and all.
Yes.
But
Yes. And
that being
postdocs
said,
work very
yeah.
hard as well. Postdocs also work very hard
Oh
to
yes, because
maintain
if they
their.
don't work hard, they don't get published, and then they basically cannot find other
Yep. Yep.
postdoc opportunities to continue
Yep.
the research.
Yep.
Uh, so I'm gonna weave off a little bit of our subject and ask you,
Yeah.
like, for you personally and generally in
Mhm.
for post grad students that
Mhm.
how do you think that they're you know thinking about their careers after
Mhm.
PhD,
Mhm.
or they're just you just are taking it a step by step? Because
Mhm.
um I'm not trying to scare you.
No, sure.
Yeah, but after PhD
Yeah.
things get sometimes tougher,
Yep.
and
Yep.
not you know PhD usually kind of prepares you to a career in academia, but we all know how's that happening. Like
Mhm.
there are not so many opportunities. So
Mhm.
are you conscious about
Mhm.
these kinds of things, or you're
Mhm.
just let me do my PhD now and figure that out later?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I think when
Yeah.
people start their PhD in general, even my colleagues and all, in the first 2 years, I think you pretty much focus just on your PhD, right? Because there's so many issues you're dealing with, you're optimizing your experiments and a lot of, courses you're dealing with. But eventually, I think there comes a point in your PhD when you realize, okay, I've established 50% of my work. Eventually, I will graduate. What am I going to do after this, right? Do I want to stay in academia, or do I want to enter the industry, right? And I think I've reached that point where I have started realizing, like, starting weighing the pros and cons in my head, whether I really want a career in academia. And I think I am very conscious about it, like, my colleagues of the people working around me and how they think as well. And I think it just comes to a point where you realize that yes, academia can be toxic, to some extent.
Yeah.
It is very toxic when it comes to money, when it comes to
Mm.
academia politics, when it comes to not getting the right guidance from your supervisors. But I mean, the same thing can happen in the industry as well, and it does happen around
It's
as
it's
well.
not heaven. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not
it's
heaven.
never
Like
going to be a
you'll
perfect
find
thing.
a problem, right?
Yeah,
There are
you'll find
problems
it
everywhere.
everywhere, exactly. So I think it's all about weighing the pros and cons eventually and deciding obviously where you want to establish yourself as well. I think the country matters a lot as well. Like in Hong Kong, it's a very business and real estate focused place. There's not a lot of science and engineering opportunities in Hong Kong. But it's coming up eventually because they're coming up with like, science and technology, hubs in Hong Kong, and they're getting a lot of fundings. So that's the one good thing about entering the industry. Let's say from a biomedical science background in Hong Kong, the funding is good, the pay is decent as well, and you could essentially work as a postdoc in an industry based company,
Hmm.
and the pay will be quite good as well, and you will be working in the right number of hours rather than working overtime as an
Yeah.
academic postdoc.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of pros and cons that you can weigh eventually.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're
Yeah,
conscious about that
yeah,
because
yeah.
to be honest, many people that I know that I spoke to and everything, like, first of all, they go into PhD
Mhm.
not thinking about what will happen after PhD,
Yeah,
and maybe before that was fine,
mhm. Yeah,
but with the number of PhDs graduating every year just kind of going
yeah,
higher and higher,
exactly.
people need to think about their options, before you commit to a 4-year relationship with with this
Exactly.
project, right?
4-year relationship essentially with your supervisor as well, and your
Basically.
project.
Yeah. So yeah, at least I'm really happy that you're already thinking about it. So
Yes.
this is
But I mean,
great.
I do agree with the fact that you said that many people actually don't think about it when they join into a PhD program.
Yeah.
And I to be very honest, even I didn't think about, why I was actually doing a PhD back then. And that's what I said. I was a very naive bachelor student, just graduated, and be like, oh, I want to do a PhD. But I mean, yeah, in my
Yeah.
defense, when I started my PhD, it was just the beginning of COVID in, worldwide. So I joined
Oh,
my
that's
PhD
a
in,
tough time to start
yeah,
PhD. Yeah.
I joined my PhD in the mid of 2020. COVID
Mhm.
actually started in Hong Kong very severely around early 2020. So when I had applied for PhD programs, I had a interview already and came COVID,
Mhm.
And that's when I started thinking, is this what I want to do? I'll be stuck in Hong Kong. I won't be able to take advantage of the fact that, I may be able to go for conferences or, the essentially the fact that you can travel around being, in academia. I won't be able to do any of that. And that's when I thought of maybe applying for masters instead. And I think that was a good decision to some extent. But the master's programs that I was applying to back then was in Europe, like in Germany, in the Netherlands and stuff. And they were good programs, but they were not funded very well.
Mm.
So essentially, I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars just to get a 1-year master's and then to do what as well, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very tough decision when I think in that period, many students actually ended up taking the decision of doing a PhD instead rather than going for an expensive master's. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, Corona kind of really
yeah,
COVID screwed with many people's plans. Like
exactly,
that was,
exactly.
obviously, no matter
Yep.
what were you doing, like you
Yep.
had to have, life-changing decisions in order to,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, okay, so I mean,
Oh, by the way, when did you finish your PhD?
2018.
2018. Cool.
Yeah. So
Wait, so one second, how did you go from dentistry to induced pluripotent cells?
I mean, as dentists, we deal with bone regeneration, right? Like,
Mm,
because it's not just the tooth; it's the bone that surrounds the tooth,
mm-hmm,
and especially for me, since I worked, as I told you, like in the oral maxillofacial department, we
mm,
had many cases of, we were basically mainly working as a traumatology department. There
mm,
were many cases of, road traffic accidents,
mm.
patients with, would lose, chunks of their
Right,
bones.
right,
And I was really naive back then. I thought I'm going to do, some kind of research that's going
right.
to accelerate the bone
Yep.
regeneration process. And then,
Mhm,
yeah, it doesn't go that way.
mhm,
The process is much slower.
mhm,
So yeah, but that's how I was interested at told you, like in bone regeneration.
mhm,
After talking to my professor over here,
mhm.
he wanted me to do something with induced pluripotent stem cells,
Right,
iPS cells. So, that's how it happened.
right, right. That sounds pretty cool as well. I mean, I essentially think like that's what people think about doing a PhD, right? They think that you're going to change the world overnight or in the next few
Yeah.
years. You're going to find a cure for cancer. And like in your case, you're going to, be the best bone regenerative doctor in the world.
Yeah, and it's
But
gonna
that's
be it's
yeah,
not
that's not how things work actually. You're actually adding a very small point of, extra knowledge in this world that people don't know about. And that is what makes it important.
I was talking to someone back when I first arrived here, right?
Hmm.
And before I even start my PhD.
Hmm.
And then we had the exact same conversation that we're having right now.
Hmm.
And he was saying, like, I know that people will, it was very humbling what he told me, like, kind of broke my heart, but
Hmm.
it made a lot of sense.
Hmm.
And we were talking, and he was like, yeah, you think, you're gonna come and you're gonna do something and you might get the Nobel Prize or whatever,
Yeah.
and things like that. And but that's not how things go. And
Yeah.
I was a bit arrogant. I was like, how do
Mhm.
you know that? Like, I might do that kind of research.
Yeah.
And then he goes like, because at that time I was still not even decided on the research that I would do, right? I was
Okay.
still thinking like
Hmm.
what to do.
Hmm.
And then he goes like, because if you were that kind of person, you would have figured things out already.
Oh.
My God, I remember like, damn, that kind of like, it kind of hurt, but makes a lot of sense too, right?
Mhm.
Because nobody gets the Nobel Prize,
Yeah.
and by
Overnight.
doing
Yeah.
overnight or
Yeah.
doing one research for like four
Yeah.
years or whatever. Like people research, their whole life for to get these
Yeah.
kinds of results.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was very humbling to be to be honest.
That's why Nobel Prize winners, I mean, just one example, they're not the youngest people winning,
Yeah.
biggest science
Yes.
award. And even recently, I just shared one of the posts. I think it was posted on LinkedIn for the Nobel Prize. Like one of the scientists who I think discovered the telomerase enzyme. Essentially, she discovered it back in her PhD program like years ago, maybe 2 decades ago or something.
Yeah.
And it's just recently that she received a Nobel Prize for
And
it.
she kept on digging for 20 years
Yes,
till she
exactly.
got that results, right?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, even 20 years ago, no one even had an idea of what that enzyme was doing. Like, the entire aging process that we have as human beings, she was discovering that part essentially. And even today, people don't really understand it, but she won the Nobel Prize for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So it takes years of work. It's not going to happen overnight.
I mean, but it's also like the process is quite nice too.
Mhm,
The
mhm,
it's how can I like me
mhm.
before PhD and after PhD are completely not completely different persons, but the way I think kind
Same.
of
Yeah.
changed, drastically. The way I see things, the way I think about subjects. It
Yeah.
really changes you a lot, right?
It does, it does, it does.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's the one thing of how the skills that you learn in a PhD are transferable, essentially speaking, to
Mhm.
any field you will ever join. In fact, in Hong Kong, there are also, the big companies, they will be recruiting PhD students to join as consultants, graduating PhD students, because we have the critical thinking skills that they need at the end of the day. Just
Exactly.
because your PhD was in sciences or social sciences doesn't mean that your mind only works in that direction. you eventually develop critical thinking skills. You know how to, go on even when you face a lot of difficulties.
This
And
is
that's
crazy.
essentially,
The
yeah,
conversation is really going exactly in like I was about to ask you what are the transferable skills that you have
yeah,
like as a
yeah,
PhD student. So you're already going there.
yeah,
Please
definitely.
please continue. Yeah.
No, essentially, yeah, essentially
Yeah.
speaking, there's so much that we develop as a PhD student, not only for our field, it's what we develop as a person.
Mhm.
So critical thinking still is definitely on the top of my list, because for 3 to 4 years of your PhD, or in the US, it's even longer. I've heard people do their PhD for 6 years.
Yeah.
What are you doing for 6 years? You are constantly failing, and then you're constantly redoing something, and you're coming up with new ways to deal with your problems, and you're finding solutions. And PhD is one of the most stimulating way of, doing that.
Yeah.
Because people in a 9 to 5 job might just give up and move on, to something else. But as PhDs, we don't have a choice, right?
Yeah,
So
you gotta figure it out. You
yeah,
gotta
you
you
have
gotta
to
find a
figure it out.
solution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you eventually find new ways to solve your issues, and that keeps you resilient as well. The second thing, it keeps you resilient for sure. And I've realized over time that, discipline and motivation, they're two different things. There are days when you will never be motivated to do any work as a PhD, honestly. Motivation is not something you wake up with every
Yeah.
day. It happens 1 in 7 days or 2 times in 7 days if you're lucky. It's discipline that keeps you going every day. The fact that you have to
Honestly,
wake up
yeah.
and do
I
it.
think the motivation, yeah, I
Yeah,
think I rarely had it during my PhD. I just
yeah,
had to, kind of bite through the pain and just keep keep
exactly.
going
Just keep going.
straight. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The fact that you wake up and do the work and finish it, that's what keeps you going as a PhD student, and eventually gets you to the end of the line as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh well, this is great, this conversation is going well. Uh
Yeah.
that I just want to ask you like I mean, I think I know a part of the answer to
Hmm.
this question, but
Hmm.
yeah, when things are not really going your way,
Hmm.
what do you do in order to feel
As
better?
as a very normal human being, the first thing I do is
Yeah.
complain. So,
Oh yeah.
very honestly speaking, like I'm not the
Yeah.
kind of motivational person. Oh my God, I do this and I do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially speaking, every human would like to complain and like cry over their issue first. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I do, especially after struggling for many
Mm-hmm.
times, let's say, and not having the thing go my way. I would probably complain and all. But I realized in the last few months that I could actually just sit down and complain and cry over, let's say my experiments that are not working out. Or I could actually just get up the next day and try to improve it and, redo it. So it's just a matter of your perspective at the end of the day. You could waste time in crying and, crying over the fact that, oh, I wish it worked. Versus you can just get up and try again and see how you can change it and make it work your own way.
Um,
So that's what I've learned. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
What
do you
about
have
you? Bro? How do you deal with?
same thing? I mean, it's part of just finding the right people to talk to,
Right, that's one thing.
and yeah, it's the cool thing is that I came to Japan with
Hmm.
a friend of mine who
Hmm.
graduated from my same university in which we
Hmm.
had our undergrad studies.
Hmm.
He's 1 year senior to me, but we came together.
Right,
And then when we came here, like we found a few other students, PhD
right,
students that we kind of formed a group
right, right,
that
right.
we had weekly, how can I say, I don't want to say the
Mm.
word, but complaining,
Complaining groups. Yeah,
yeah, complaining. So we just like we would sit there and just complain. Everyone would just kind of throw everything that's in their
and get it
chest
out
out.
with. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just get it out, and
yeah,
that kept us moving till the next week.
yeah,
To be
yeah.
honest, I remember my first year. My
Mm.
first year, I we did not do this. Everybody was just kept their head down, tried to work,
Yeah,
and we rarely met.
yeah.
And that doesn't really, that did not go so well.
Mm. Mm.
I I was in a bad shape.
Right.
I needed someone that is
Yeah.
going through and I have my wife. I speak to her, I
Mhm.
talk to my
Yeah,
parents, but it's different. You need
it is.
somebody who's going through the
Yep,
exact same things that you're going
exactly.
through to
Exactly.
understand what's happening, right?
Exactly. Anyone outside your field, let's say, outside PhD, essentially speaking, who's not doing a PhD, they will not understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
And I think you're essentially left with, let's say, your colleagues, supervisors in some cases, if they are, open enough to talk to you about your problems. And I mean, I have colleagues or friends who have even, maybe cried in front of their supervisors, and there are times when I even want to cry in front of my supervisor. I'm like, this is not working out. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like you mentioned, you need a group of people in the same field, maybe doing a PhD postdoc or whatever, and they might be able to give you the best advice. And even if they can't find a solution for you, just talking to them sometimes keeps you going on.
Right?
Because you
Yeah.
realize your feelings are valid. You realize that you're not
Yeah.
making this up.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
not
not crazy, right?
exaggerating it. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
crazy. I'm not crying over my cell
Yeah.
closure for no reason, right? Like, there's a reason why it's making me cry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So it's tough. I mean, yeah.
Did you do any other things? Do you take,
Mhm.
do you do things that, kind of to take your head away from
Mhm.
PhD? What
Yeah.
what do you do?
So that's essentially why my page is called PhD Who Dances, is because I love dancing. That's the one thing I think I would have done as my career option if I were not in science. And I
what
think I
what uh,
should have
what
done.
what what kind of dance do you like? What
Oh,
what
so
what
right. So
mm,
I started off, with let's say Bollywood dancing, right? So not many
mhm.
people are aware of Bollywood dancing, but that is the biggest industry, one of the biggest industries in India. So that's how I started with. I wouldn't say I love acting, but the kind of expressions with your body and your face that goes into dancing, I loved
Mm,
that. And I grew up dancing and performing in Hong Kong. And then eventually I took up Western dancing and many different Chinese traditional dancing. I have done jazz funk. So from time to time, I do, stage performances.
mhm.
And one of the biggest stage performances I've done was for the YouTube Fan Fest. So that was back in like, I think 2017, 2018. So we had one of the biggest choreographers coming from the US, and he taught a bunch of dancers in Hong Kong. And we did a YouTube Fan Fest that was aired globally. So that was pretty fun. And that was all during my
Wow.
bachelor's time. Yeah, but essentially speaking, you cannot really take that, as your career option because it's not the most feasible option,
Yeah, it's not.
logically speaking.
Yeah.
I
Eh,
mean, yeah, I mean, there are people who love dancing, but not everyone can be a top world choreographer, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but that goes in every stream as well. You cannot be the top scientist in your field always as well. You cannot be the top manager or the top, CEO in your field as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, other than that, I think I'm actually a very affectionate towards animals in general. Uh, Although I'm a non-vegetarian, so that might be a little ironic, but I do have a soft space for dogs and other animals.
I'm
And
I'm not vegetarian. I love cats and dogs. I mean, I love dogs. I love
ironic
dogs a
though, right?
lot.
Yeah,
Why?
I think it's ironic to some extent because we are trying to have a very deep, emotional love for one kind of specific species, but the other kind of species we generally tend to eat them.
The other species are delicious. Like that's the difference.
Yeah, I agree. But
Yeah.
I do have a lot of friends as well who eventually had such deep, love for animals. They eventually turned vegetarian, and they have been vegetarian for so many years now. So
To
that
be
I think it's
honest,
a life-changing experience.
how can I say? I respect these guys,
Yeah.
with all my heart, because
Mm,
it's I don't think I can give up
yeah.
meat. Like it's
Yep.
not
Yep.
easy. It's very difficult. So,
Yep.
I just raised the hat if I had a right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hats off, right?
Definitely. Definitely. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So other than that, yeah, I do love spending time with animals.
Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I'm actually a very big dog person because I grew up with a dog essentially. Yeah.
Oh, uh, my, this is what, like, I live in an apartment right now that we're not allowed to have, pets.
Right. Oh,
But
oh, just
then
pets in general.
just
Okay.
pets in general.
Okay.
And my kids are starting to nag me to, to move to another place to,
Right.
so that we
Right.
can have a
I know.
a pet.
Yeah.
And then I keep having this discussion with them. If we're moving, we're having a dog, and they're like, "No, we want a cat." And then, we keep having these kinds of,
Yeah.
fun fights.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, this is kind of the last question I
Sure.
ask everyone.
Hmm.
Uh, what's your recommendation to somebody who's interested in academia and, joining the PhD, joining, trying to do research?
Hmm.
What would be your 2 cents that you would give them?
Two sentences.
2 cents, like 2 cents,
Oh,
right?
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think one would obviously be that
Hmm.
people in general, students, they need to think through of what they're getting into. The first thing, do
Mm.
not get into a PhD program thinking that it's going to be all, beautiful and things are going to work out perfectly. That's the one thing, definitely. You need to be very, very ready for what you're getting into. Secondly, would be, the opposite of what I just said. Do not be afraid of quitting at the end of the day. Because I have been in that phase of my PhD where I felt like I should just quit, I should quit, maybe find a job where I will actually get, more paid than this PhD
Yeah.
that I'm doing. And it's more common than we think. People do give up in their PhDs as well. So that's the first thing
Yeah.
I would the second thing I would say. Like if you have thought about it very well, then you should get into a PhD program. You're ready to face whatever comes through and face with, 4 years or 5 years of your PhD. And secondly, do not be afraid to give up as well, to be honest. Like there's no stigma attached of, to the fact that you want to give up with your PhD and what are people going to think about it. No one's going to think about anything because they were not the ones to apply for the PhD. They were not, brave enough to get into a PhD. You were the one who actually was brave enough, capable enough to get into the PhD program.
Mhm.
So there's no harm getting out of it as well if you get a better opportunity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I mean,
Thank you so much.
yeah, this is a very important point. So, like, don't be afraid to quit,
Yep.
but I think it's quite difficult for people who already got into a PhD
Yep.
to quit. It's not easy. It's
It's
not
not
an
easy.
definitely it's not an easy decision,
Yep.
but mental health comes
Yep.
first. So
Yes,
if you
definitely.
see that this is really affecting you in a negative way more than it should be, then,
Yep.
like you said, like, maybe quitting is also a good idea.
Yep. Yep, definitely.
Great.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you very much. This was so much fun. Time
Yeah.
flied by, like I flew by, whatever. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm
we've been delaying it for so long, but I'm glad we actually finally,
yeah,
had this.
I'm sorry. Like, I didn't want to bother you anymore.
No, no, no.
I
It's not that you were
when
bothering
was it? Like, end of last year when I texted
December.
you.
Yeah, December.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna give her time. I know PhDs people are crazy busy, so
Yeah. I
I'm just
know.
glad that
Actually,
you
you have
have
done a
time.
PhD, so you will know. Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I was like, no pressure. You take your time whenever you have enough time,
Mhm.
to speak to me, because we're just speaking. This is not gonna help your PhD. you know.
No, I think it helps me a lot to actually, figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing and, what I can tell people about it.
Yeah.
It's the most clearest way, to be honest. Yeah.
To be honest, like, this is why I started this podcast, and I
Yeah.
am just. And another point that I'm going to say, like, is that not many people have the courage to speak about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like last episode I uploaded was a month ago, and it's not for the lack of trying. It's
Mm-hmm.
like many people are not willing to talk
Yeah,
about what's going on.
definitely, definitely.
And finding people like you, like my other guests, who are willing to speak is also like kind of a task
Yeah,
in itself, to be honest. But
I know.
people like you who speak, who share their experiences,
Yeah,
I believe, have a good effect on people interested, who are just like, there's this black box called PhD, and people
exactly.
don't know what's going on in it unless they go in. And
Yeah,
hopefully people listen to this podcast and,
yeah,
kind of realize a
Definitely.
little bit more,
I
have some
agree.
expectations, right?
I agree. I think a lot of my followers, they're coming up with like in my DM requests, asking me all the questions that you've just asked me as well. But I cannot
Right.
go on one-on-one replying to everyone, this is why I did my PhD, like 10 people asking me the same thing. So I'm definitely going to share this podcast.
Refer them to this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them like that's
Yeah.
just me, like other
Yes.
people are, having the
Yeah.
same,
Yeah,
experiences.
definitely. Yes. Actually, so what do you do? Sorry, what do you do like on is this your full-time job like
Oh
or
no, 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 no.
okay.
I have family to feed. I cannot survive on this. I'm actually like the closest thing to what I do is like a digital scientific communicator.
Nice, nice.
So basically I see the science that the company I work for a dental manufacturer, right?
Okay.
And basically I see the science I that they're doing and kind of dumb it down and produce all kinds of contents to promote their
Mhm.
products.
Right, right, right.
You know,
That's very
like
useful. Yeah.
like I said, I'm very interested in photography,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
luckily I got a job where I get to do a lot of
Exactly.
photography, videography. I make
Yeah.
videos, I make pictures, and it's all like
Mhm.
combining science and
Okay.
multimedia and having the time of my
Yeah.
life to be to
I
be
mean, I'm
honest.
happy that you're enjoying it, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, to be completely honest, I never thought that I'm gonna be able, especially when I started this job, we were not really sure what's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen between me and this company.
Hmm. Hmm.
But after they full on trusted me and just let
Hmm.
me do what I want to do, I
Right.
could not believe that I'm getting paid for this.
Actually,
'Cause I was just, doing things that I want to do, and they're like,
you're
okay,
getting
this sounds
paid for
great.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm getting paid for this, really?
Yeah.
So,
That's what a job should be like, honestly.
right. Yeah. I was like, yeah, this is going well, to be
Yeah.
honest. Uh, but yeah, hopefully, I just want this podcast, to reach more
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a bit sad that people have to go through these experiences not knowing what to expect, and hopefully in one of those days will people will actually listen, and
Definitely.
to these podcasts, to many YouTubers, to before actually committing to a whole
Yeah.
PhD program.
Exactly. You get to
Yeah,
learn from other people's experiences that you don't get to hear on a day-to-day basis. So it's a very good thing, I think, that you can share other people's experiences through a specific platform.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so thank you very much for
Thank you
today,
so much. Thank
and
you.
I'll keep following your
Yeah,
Instagram.
you
Hopefully
too.
we, yeah, yeah, hopefully and if something comes up, like once you
Yeah.
graduate, I want to invite you again.
Yes,
Tell us
and we'll
about
see
how you
where I
feel.
am.
See what happens, right? Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Okay,
Thank you
then.
so much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
day.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.